Good morning. I'm Harley Schlanger from the LaRouche organization with your daily video update for October 17th, 2025. I'm going to begin with a couple of developments as an update and then move to the questions I received from emails. So let me start with these two updates. First, as many of you may have heard, we are launching a new platform, an executive intelligence review channel. And it's not to present the point of view of EIR, because you can get that from watching videos and subscribing. But the intent is to give readers and subscribers the ability to change, the means to change the course of current history, give you access to what was called by President Putin a chance to add your voice to a philosophy of complexity, so that you can be part of the higher harmonies of polyphonic discussion. Now, that's not an abstraction. It's essential that we have more citizen involvement. And by having a chance to interact with people who are being interviewed, people who are making history, it will give you an ability to hone in on what the real issues are, break through the hybrid warfare and the narrative control, and become an authentic voice for the new paradigm. And we'll be interviewing leading analysts, strategists, and activists. The first one was put up yesterday, an interview that Helga Zepp-LaRouche did with Dr. Manuel Hosassian, who's the ambassador of the Palestinian Authority to Denmark. And he issued a very strong endorsement of the Oslo plan. So I hope we can link that to the description section today so that you can see it and get a sense of what we're about to do. Now, the second point is that with this heightened tension around will there be Taurus missiles sent to Ukraine, will there be Tomahawk missiles, there was a 2-hour talk yesterday between President Trump and President Putin. The first discussion since the Alaska summit on August 15th. Substantive discussion, probable follow-up summit in Budapest. And that's interesting because we're seeing more and more sanity spreading through Eastern Europe as the Western European leaders are becoming more and more crazy. Western Europe is controlled by the oligarchy and the war hawks. So what we're seeing is a potential for what happened in Gaza. That is the improbable. Whether it holds or not is not the question. It was improbable that Netanyahu could be forced to accept a ceasefire. What Putin and Trump talked about, we don't have the details yet, but both sides issued statements satisfied with the progress to continue the breakthroughs from the Anchorage summit. Now let me get back to the vast bulk of emails that I've gotten, all of which, or almost all of which, are around the Gaza peace plan of President Trump. And as you might expect, they're nearly equally divided between people who are skeptical, cynical, say it's a trick, it's a trap, it means nothing, and some who are looking for hope and saying, can this work? What needs to be done to make it work? So on the hostile side, you have people who are saying you can't trust Netanyahu. Well, I agree with that. You can't trust Hamas. Well, I generally agree with that. You can't trust Trump. Well, who else are you going to trust? Trump did intervene to get the initial signatures and put the thing in motion. Now, you also have people who sent me emails saying I'm an anti-Semite because I don't denounce Hamas with every breath. You know, the obvious point is that we're in a situation where we've been in a genocidal attack on the Palestinian people, with the justification being fighting against Hamas. Now, whether Hamas is fully disarmed or not, we'll see what happens with that, and we'll see what's going to happen. But what we can see in the negative response is the effectiveness of the narrative control from the British Empire, that you're being denied access to the deeper dynamic, that of an economic crisis, that this has very little to do with Jews versus Arabs. That's the surface. but underneath it is the empire versus the citizens of sovereign states. And unless you start from that standpoint, you get trapped into the profiles of left and right, Zionism versus Islam. It's the clash of civilizations imposed through the mainstream media and now increasingly through social media to keep you in line. So, what you can see is the hold of the post-Cold War axioms that talk about the unipolar order, talk about the need to stand up and fight the war against terrorism. All of these things, especially imposed through the strategy of tension, control the thinking of most people to the extent they think at all. So for those of you looking for inspiration and hope, I would say this: you must find it in yourself. There are people who are taking a stand, stepping forward. Dr. Hosassian is an example. The Palestinian Authority ambassador to Denmark made an extremely strong endorsement of the Oasis plan, and he's talking about this with all of his colleagues. So it's possible that there are many, many other political leaders who will take up the fight if they see that the population is ready for it. Another example I gave yesterday is Avram Berg, the former Speaker of the Knesset in Israel. Now, Berg has written another essay, which is a challenge to the Zionists. And he said of their actions after October 7th, defending genocide to avenge the October 7th attack, he said, these are utterly alien to the Jewish tradition. Now, that's the point I've been making. The Jewish tradition is not Zionism. And what Berg said is that what you're seeing is an imposition of a culture of humiliation and violence, which is at odds with the Jewish religious tradition, which he describes as having a commitment to the sanctity of life and responsibility for the other. Now, that's an important point, that here's someone who is a former leader of Israel who's speaking as a Jew and not as a Zionist. He is a Zionist, but he's not defending the extremist Greater Israel position of the radicals in the Netanyahu government. So there are people stepping forward who are showing courage. And what's necessary for those of you who want to do something is take that as your example. Now, the fact is the alternative does exist. The idea that there is a policy for mutual benefit, which is the basis for peace. And that policy is the Oasis plan of Lyndon LaRouche, which starts from the standpoint that a signature on a piece of paper means nothing unless you can show there's a benefit for both sides in having peace. And the benefit is not just to lay down the arms. The benefit is that you can work together with something like the desalination of water to green the desert. The desert exists in all different countries, in Saudi Arabia, in Jordan, in Israel, in the Palestinian area. How do you deal with that? How do you solve that problem? Human creativity and an extension of credit that will enable people to develop the technologies for desalination of water. That's just the first step, but it's an extremely important first step. Without it, you're left with the politics of hatred, of revenge, and it's not a solution. Now, the reason that this has to happen quickly is there is a global economic breakdown coming down the pike. At the same time, there are too many contradictions that are exposing the evil, so that it's now possible your friends will understand it. And I know some of you say, look, my friends are crazy. They don't believe a thing I say. They think it's all conspiracy theories, or else there's nothing you can do. Well, more and more people are waking up right now. And the reason is, as I say, the contradictions. For example, the people who talk about freedom of speech, unless you reject the mainstream opinion. That is, if you say that Netanyahu is committing genocide, then by the definition of the mainstream, you're an anti-Semite. Well, what about Netanyahu killing tens of thousands of innocent civilians? Is that acceptable? And people are beginning to become aware of these contradictions. And we see that in terms of the youth in particular. Another example, we're pro-democracy. Democracy is the only way, unless you vote for the wrong party. If you vote for Marine Le Pen, if you vote for the Alternative for Deutschland, if you vote for the wrong candidate in Romania, then the election has to be canceled. Well, you don't think people see that? You don't think that the attempt to assassinate Fico, the Prime Minister of Slovakia, sent a warning to many people? You know, I think you're underestimating the sensitivity that people are having now and an ability to pick up that there's something definitely wrong. So that's where you come in. Give them the truth and organize them around that. Just another example, the idea that we need green technology to save the planet when it's killing the people. These are things that show the insanity of the oligarchical system. And what's necessary is the sane people have their voice heard. Now, that's why I say your voice is needed in this polyphonic chorus that President Putin talked about. And we can always use help with people buying subscriptions, making contributions, but the help is for us to give you more power. And that's the important thing about the new platform we're launching, to put you in contact with the ideas directly from the people who are involved in this fight. Now, just a note, I will not be with you next week. I'm going to be traveling, but my colleagues are more than capable of presenting the updates. So tune in starting Monday and look for the new EIR daily platform.